My name is Deborah Hurston, and I'm the Executive Director of the Association for Black Economic Power. And welcome, 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 and thank you for joining us. This is our first program of the year. We started these programs approximately in 22, and what this does is it helps ABEP share with the public how to increase your financial power, how to move from just barely surviving to thriving and creating generational wealth. It is not something that we've all uh, been brought up discussing in our journey. And so today we have a panel of experts who are going to share some wonderful information with us to help us all get the year started off right financially. And near the end of the program, if we don't get to it in the program, we will send you a poll to find out what you thought about this program, what you'd like to see moving forward. And this helps us share with our funders, A, that this is important and that you enjoyed it, and B, you want to see more of it, and specifically what items you would like to see. So please, when you get to the survey part, please don't pass that by, because that's your way of sharing with us your thoughts about what we're doing so that we can share with our funders and supporters how important this is. So now I'd like to introduce our host for the evening. This is a gentleman that I've had the opportunity to walk with as we launched the credit union. His name is Benson Webb. He is a member of the task force, the Financial Empowerment in the Task Force. He's also the treasurer for Arise Community Credit Union and the owner of Golden Web Capital. Benson.
Deborah, I could have introduced myself any better than you have, so I appreciate that. And once again, good evening, everyone. I'm looking forward to this wonderful program because, we have some real superstars. That's why I'm out in outer space now, because what you're going to learn is out of this world. So stop this fun from being happen. So let me go ahead and introduce those experts Deborah mentioned that will help us understand how we can prepare for this upcoming year. So I will first like to introduce Kylie Demery. So Mr. Kylie Demery is an independent wealth advisor with 20 plus years in the financial services industry. He founded Demery Wealth Advisors back in 2017 to provide comprehensive wealth management services to individuals and qualified retirement plans designed for those small business owners. Giving back to the community is important to Mr. Kylie Demery, and he is passionate about serving in several ways. He is engaged as well as nonprofits, gives him an opportunity to share his financial wisdom. So Kylie serves on the board of the Eden Prairie Foundation, the board of the Association of Black Economic Power, and on the finance committee of Rise Early Learning Center to give back to his local community, to those in need. Kylie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
Also in that same financial space and making real headways, we have Mr. Greg Wallace. So Mr. Greg Wallace, he grew up in an environment in which he learned the rewards of helping others and was able to witness the benefits of running your own business and being your own boss. Nothing like it. So Greg's parents each owned their own business, and as they ease into retirement, they have now become multi-generational business owners. Having seen how satisfied and fulfilled his parents were with the result of their hard work and success, Greg knew that he also wanted to run his own business upon graduating from college. And boy, howdy has he been doing that. So as an advisor, a financial advisor, Greg continues to discover the incredible opportunity he has to help other people achieve their goals and objectives. And as a bonus, Greg gets to do what he loves while he continues to make friends and help improve the lives of his clients. Greg, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And last but you best believe not least, we have Miss Diane Walenta. So Ms. Diane Walenta is also coming with more than 20 years of experience in the mortgage industry. Diane Walenta has established herself as a trusted and knowledgeable senior mortgage loan officer with First Bank and Trust. So as a passionate advocate for financial literacy, Diane recognizes that financial literacy is the cornerstone of sound financial decisions. She combines her extensive knowledge of home financing with a deep commitment to educating individuals and families about financial wellness. She believes that empowering people with the knowledge to manage their finances effectively can have a profound impact on their lives. Diane, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. That was very sweet. Thank you, Benson.
It's my pleasure because I know we want to understand that this program is around that financial wellness because we're coming into the new year. We have some new financial goals, and it's time to take a new year. What do we need to have? And really, it starts with that clarity and actionable plans for your finances. So when it comes down to that type of understanding, I do want to get into some of the panelist questions just so we can keep everyone's excitement down, because I know we all had those rounds of applause ready. Let's go ahead and start applauding. So, asking to the panel, for someone new to investing, what are the first steps they should take to get started? Greg, let's go ahead and see what you have in store for
Yeah,
this.
thanks. It's a great question. And the first thing is in sitting down with clients or if it's just yourself is to set financial goals, write them down, and then from there you want to have a budget and make sure that you're paying yourself. And a rule that we use within our firm, 20% of your gross income, you want to be paying and investing back into yourself, building wealth. 60% goes towards fixed expenses, mortgages, paying down debt, food, things like that. And then the remaining 20% goes towards, discretionary entertainment, vacations, fun money, tithing.
Okay.
Emery, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I will. And Vincent, thank you for the great introductions. I do appreciate it. Looking forward to this conversation. And I'll piggyback off what Greg just said. I think I really focus on goals-based planning when meeting with clients or prospective clients. I think it's really important to begin with the big picture in mind and move with purpose. And that just comes down to identifying what your goals and objectives are. So as you sit down to set a plan to invest or save, any account, I believe, has to have its own goal and objective. And truly identify what that truly means for you. Begin with the big picture in mind. But as you think about investing, I think it's really important to make sure that you set the foundation, a proper foundation. And what that means to me is that for somebody that wants to start investing, make sure that you have capital set aside. For instance, I call it a liquidity backstop or the sleep well at night fund. So making sure that you have 3 to 6 months of after-tax income set aside in an account for the unexpected. If you're saving for a short-term or mid-term goal, perhaps that's parked in your savings account, but also make sure that you are identifying what your resources are too. So as you kind of budget and identify what's going into savings, what's going into your emergency fund, above and beyond that, how much do you have at your discretionary to start investing for your financial future? Identify what those resources are, whether it be through your employer sponsored, whether it be an employed sponsor plan, or doing something on your own in conjunction with your employed sponsor plan. So I would say, again, begin with the big picture in mind, identify what the goals and objectives are, and make a plan for yourself.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is you got to be able to give your dollars a job in a sense. Find a way to put those dollars to work. You just don't leave them idly around, right? Because those dollars are sitting around, they're not earning any interest, they're not really building anything for you. Finding somewhere to place it to where you're going to get the benefit of those hard-earned dollars. Thank you both for that insight. So This one's special for you, Diane. So when it comes down to those individuals in the audience that are looking to or have purchasing a home on their wish list or on the to-do list for the year, and let's say they're first-time home buyers. So if they're
Mhm.
first-time home buyers, what steps should they take to prepare financially before applying for that mortgage to purchase that home or that property rather?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Benson. And really, we both Greg and Kylie talked about planning, and again, that pertains to home ownership as well. So the first thing you need to do is really get prepared. And I'm a big proponent of financial education. I'm a big proponent of first-time homebuyer classes. There's several out there there's a great one out there by NeighborWorks that will help you prepare and really talk about the importance of home ownership, but also what happens when you buy a home and to be prepared for all of those things that happen when you buy a home. So when I sit down with a client, we always talk about, the pieces of the puzzle. The pieces of the puzzle when you're looking for a mortgage or looking to buy a home is really, do you have the income to sustain the payment? Do you have the capital, so assets for the down payment, the closing costs? Should you be exploring down payment assistance programs that can help you with the cost to buy a home? What's your credit like? I think credit is really something that really scares people to really talk about, but I'm such a proponent of knowing what your credit score is and how do you manage your credit. And the one thing about credit is I always tell people it's never permanent and it's never fatal. There are ways to rebuild credit or start to build credit. So you just need to find that person, that coach, so to speak, that can help you really talk about home financing and credit and how to build it, how to manage it, and how to maintain it. So really getting organized with your finances, putting together that budget. I think as Greg or Kylie talked about, really knowing how much do you want to spend on a mortgage payment? I or any loan officer can tell you how much you qualify for, may not be anywhere near what you want to pay. So know your budget, know your number. So I'm not going to spend any more than $2,200 and stick to that. Don't go looking at homes first. Make sure you understand your numbers and what that equates to in a loan amount is a first step. So really, truly being educated and knowing how to manage your finances is the biggest thing. And there are lots of ways to do that. Lots of people out there to help you, to educate you. So never hesitate to ask questions.
That curiosity, love it, Diane. When you think, 'cause
Mhm.
what I'm hearing is that you have to be someone who really wants to put themselves in their driver's seat when it comes down to it. And you can't really do that if you don't know what the car looks like. You don't understand the car, right? You understand where
Correct.
you are financially. You don't understand your foundation, like Kylie and Greg mentioned. Having that clarity can help you understand what you can afford. Because a lot of times people just see that down payment and say, oh, I can scratch up enough money to make that happen. But what about the maintenance? What about the repairs? What about everything else that goes into it? You want to make sure you plan for that. And speaking of planning, we have to think through those financial goals. And this is a question that everyone can feel free to answer, but how can someone prioritize those financial goals? Because a lot of times we feel overwhelmed by multiple competing priorities, right? So we have saving for retirement, paying off debt, buying a home. How do you prioritize those financial goals? Kylie, I'll refer to you for this for one first.
Yeah, thank you. And if I may add, I think Diane mentioned something that was really important. And I'll quickly add to this is that finding a trusted advisor or coach, somebody that can certainly educate you, because I think one of the things that people make a mistake, they may listen to Uncle Jim or Aunt Barb about interest rates and what they should have. Just because they get a good interest rate means that you should have the same, and everybody's situation is different. So I think having a coach or building a team of trusted advisors is really important. So that's my 2 cents on that. But in terms of prioritizing, again, it kind of goes back to what's really important for you. I mean, what are your goals and objectives? And so I know in some cases, things can be overwhelming. But as you sit down and be true to yourself and try to identify what's truly important, what's at the top of the list, and you identify what those goals and objectives are, and then craft an action plan on how you're going to achieve those goals and objectives. And I think being simple and starting simple and just checking off boxes can be a really a positive thing from a mental perspective, to make sure that if I have these goals and objectives, I'm checking off boxes, I'm feeling better about myself and my financial situation. But I think it just really starts with creating a plan for yourself. What's really important? How am I going to achieve these goals? And talk to people that have done it before. Kind of going back to your network of resources or board of advisors, whatever you want to call it, as you're taking care of your business, look at yourself as a CEO of your business. You are building a board of advisors, trusted advisors that can help you navigate through various financial waters. It's really tough to do it alone. So getting good sound advice, whether it be a banker, financial advisor, tax professional, even estate planning attorneys. These are all different types of professionals that eventually you want to have in your network, but start with the big picture in mind, identify what those goals are, and start checking boxes.
Powerful, powerful. Greg, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's a great summary, Kylie. I guess just to add to that, we help clients, and you want to focus on just separating goals, because it can get very overwhelming. So we'll have short-term goals, and then what are midterm goals, and more of your long-term goals, and then we'll rank them. So on a scale of 1 to 10, so you could understand, what is your priority? Because, it's your financial plan, not Kylie's or mine or Diane's. So it's yours. So we want to get that set up, your prioritization, and then focus on getting a plan. And then we help clients set up a goal tracker. So it'd be similar to somebody that's doing a fitness run or condition. There's a roadmap, and you're going to have progress, and there'll be some setbacks along the way, but over time you're going to have a roadmap to track your success on accomplishing your goals that you've set.
And Greg, I think that goes back to building credit too, is to build
Yeah.
that roadmap. And
Absolutely.
again, yeah,
That's part of it.
that's part of it. And credit again is something that's so important in anything we do in life. And from how much you pay in car insurance, to what you pay in an interest rate on a car loan, to what you pay in an interest rate on a mortgage. So really understanding that credit piece is so important. And that
Even
I will
affects
stress that
even
every day.
Yeah, even it can affect what you're paying for cell phone
Correct.
bills.
Yeah.
I mean, so credit gets spread across a lot of different areas. Rent, if you have poorer credit, you might be required to put down more 2 months deposit, compared to maybe possibly one. So or putting more money down when you purchase a home versus less down if your credit is not as favorable. So absolutely, Diane, you're right.
Very
Benson, may I jump in here with a question?
absolutely.
When is a good time to get started? And that was one question. And how do you define, when you're setting your goals, when do you determine or separate, how do you determine your needs versus your wants in planning for your financial future? How do you factor in that?
Well, if I could jump in real quick, I mentioned that and might have glossed over a little bit fast. Time to get started is today or yesterday. Okay? The huge benefit on everybody's side is time. Okay, you can't get time back. So waiting a day or a month or there's never the perfect time except today. Right, so that would be the first thing. Pay yourself first. The goal is to get to 20% of your gross income is what you want to set aside. Okay, so if somebody's making 50,000 a year, it's 10,000 a year is the goal. So you might not be able to do that out of the start, but that's where you want to, shoot to. That's the goal. Okay. If you're making 200,000, again, you're putting $40,000 away, and so on. Again, having a goal tracker is going to keep you on track, and make sure that you're, saving enough and you're going to reach that goal in the time frame objective that you want. For risk tolerance, there's 11 questions that we go through. Kylie does a similar. It's going to ask what's your time frame. Do you want to keep money liquid? Is it if the money market goes down, or it has to be guaranteed, it'll end up scoring your profile and rank you as far as you're going to be more conservative, more balanced, or you're really, really aggressive. That's how you start to build an investment portfolio.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Greg, 100%. And start yesterday. If you haven't started yesterday, start today. Greg has given some really good insight in terms of the number you want to shoot for, even if it's not 20% today, even if it's 5% today. Start somewhere, just create the habit, and then increase that number on an annual basis if you can. If you can do it sooner, great. But I would say just create the habit of putting money away. And I would even say, if you haven't started investing, just create the habit of putting money away into your savings account. Pretend that it's not even there. Let it accumulate over time. Start doing research as well. As you continue to create that habit, putting money away systematically, pretend that it's not there. Start educating yourself on what investing is all about. There's 2 books that I would recommend. One is, it's pretty simple. It's Economics 101. You could go to Amazon, find it, Economics 101, and it talks about everything that's the economy, the markets, terminology, how the economy works. It talks about how the markets move, what moves the market, security, different types of investments. It covers everything high level. The other book is called The Power of Zero. If you are young, you should read this book. It talks about how to get into the zero tax bracket later in life by doing all the things today, like putting money in tax deferred accounts that will allow you to take distributions tax-free later on down the road. And it does talk about the tax codes historically versus today. So I recommend that anybody that's in their 20s or 30s, maybe even your 40s, read The Power of Zero, but also read Economics 101. But I agree with Greg 100% because time is very powerful. If you look at somebody that creates a systematic habit of putting money away in their 20s versus their 30s or 40s, there's going to be a drastic difference between the 2 or the 3. So I always say just create the habit early, start somewhere, increase as you can. For those that are maybe working for a company that offers a 401k, nowadays, if you have more than 5 employees or more as a business owner, you have to offer some form of qualified retirement plan. For those of you that have a 401k plan that's offered to you, you should take it. Nowadays, there's an automatic enrollment feature that has to be implemented. But if you are getting a company match or match is being offered, take the free money. Oftentimes, I would get questions about, have a 401k plan offered, should I do it? I answer a question with a question. Are they going to match your contributions? If the answer is yes, you definitely need to be putting money in systematically. So I would say time, just like Greg said, and systematically build, shoot for that 20% number, just like Greg said.
Wonderful, wonderful. Because what I'm hearing is, I guess one example like compounding interest, right? Taking the dollars that you're making and having them grow as time goes on, because your time is your best friend when it comes down to compound interest, taking the money that you work so hard for and let the markets, let the people that you know what they're doing, help grow that wealth through compounding interest, the 8th wonder of the world. And really on that point, having someone help you with this, right? Because we can go through the process of doing it all on our own and doesn't stop it from being overwhelming. So if I was to hire a financial advisor, what role does a financial advisor actually play in creating a long-term financial plan? And when should someone consider hiring one?
I'll jump in. I would say, again, somebody that maybe they built the habit of putting money away. They built their foundation, so they got cash set aside. They're systematically investing, and maybe their family's growing. Maybe the tax situation becomes a little bit more complicated. There could be some triggers that say, you know what, I need a little bit more help. And the role that the advisor plays, kind of going back to what Greg said, is that when we kind of go through this process of having a fit meeting, having a discussion with the prospective client about goals and objectives, and gives us an opportunity to share a little bit more about how our business model works, how we service clients. So we'll talk about investing, what the allocation model should look like based upon your goals, based upon your risk tolerance, time horizon. We'll talk about asset and income protection. So in the event that something happens to you, if you're married, what happens to the surviving spouse if that income isn't coming in? Or in the event of a disability. So we'll talk about asset and income protection, building the foundation. We'll talk about tax efficiency. How can you be tax efficient moving forward as you are trying to accumulate wealth? And how can you be tax efficient once you reach that milestone in retirement? But there could be some other goals, short-term, mid-term, that you certainly want to be thinking about. So how can we actually start planning for those other goals, whether it's some form of wealth accumulation for a major purchase, or maybe education purposes, or maybe it's debt elimination. So we're having a conversation about all these different things. And then in the event that anything were to happen, well, what does the succession plan look like? So we're thinking about this from a comprehensive perspective. We want to make sure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. And Greg mentioned something earlier that was really important. He mentioned a tracker. So essentially, when we put together a comprehensive wealth plan, I call it a private wealth plan. It's ongoing, it's perpetual. Goals may change. We may adjust or modify goals and objectives as time goes on, but we're going to make it a plan of record, meaning that we built the plan, we're going to follow it to a T, and we're going to review the progress as time goes on. And so I think the other part that the advisor serves as a resource is that Greg, just like myself, we have a network of resources. So there's going to be a time where we may need to pull in another professional to help with the client's financial services, whether it be a banker, private banker, maybe a CPA for tax purposes, or certainly an estate planning attorney as we get older, have a family, our situation becomes a little bit more complicated. We have kids. In the event that something happens to me and my wife, who's going to take care of my minors, my daughter, in the event of death? She's not going to be able to manage her money by herself. So do we have a trust in place? Who do we know that we can hire as a trustee that's going to act in the fiduciary capacity for the benefit of my daughter? Who's going to be the guardian, the executor of the estate, healthcare directive? So these are all the different things that we think about and have a conversation with the clients about from a comprehensive perspective.
Hey, okay, I love that. Great. Thank you for that, Kylie. Greg, do you have anything to add to that?
I guess from a team of advisors, I would also include bankers and mortgage people. We work with a lot of again, business owners own and invest real estate, and you need to understand debt to equity and cash flow, and that changes over the course of the landscape, with lending regulations. And so somebody like Diane, is very critical for clients that just not home ownership, but also have real estate as part of their investment sleeve.
Okay. And interesting enough, I've heard a lot about the real estate piece of that, right? Having that physical, tangible asset that you can see, touch, feel, and know that it is yours. So to really get a better understanding, I do want to talk to Ms. Diane there. When it comes down to knowing when is the best time to take that leap to purchase that home, what's like the most important factor to just consider when deciding whether to rent or to buy a house?
Well, again, when somebody asks me that question, I kind of put a question back to them and say, okay, let's think through your goals. So having that tangible asset, that home you can put your own nail in the wall and nobody's going to yell at you, is great. But again, you need to understand the financial responsibility of that home as well. So renting, really the pros and cons of renting, the pros really are it's something that you can get into probably a little less expensive, maybe 1 or 2 months rent up front. So it's a little less expensive to get into a rental. It's if it needs maintenance, you just simply pick up the phone and call somebody, they'll come and fix the dishwasher. Whereas if you're owning a home, that dishwasher doesn't work, you're now fixing it and you need to be responsible for that. So but the pros of owning a home are so great, so great. And again, I am such a proponent of home ownership that as you talk about building wealth, building wealth and home ownership is just the greatest way to do it. That generational wealth of a home ownership and building that equity in that property. You're not paying that landlord's mortgage. You're paying your own mortgage and building your own equity. There are tax benefits to owning a home. So again, when you try and get to that zero tax benefit, there are tax benefits of owning a home. You can customize it. So again, you can put the nail on the wall or paint the walls purple if you'd like. Nobody's going to complain. It's yours. But again, you also have to understand there are maintenance responsibilities of owning a home. I always ask my clients when they ask me this question, we kind of go back to talking about their job stability. Are you planning on being in a home or planning on being in your job is it stable enough to be there for the next 3 to 5 years? Is this a job where you may be having an opportunity to move and the company will move you across the country in the next year? Probably not a good reason to buy a house. You really need to be in that house probably 3 to 5 years and to make it worth the cost of doing it. And then the cost of reselling it. So again, there are things to think through there. So really, once you have your financial house in order, okay, you've saved for that down payment, you've got your credit in order, your job's stable, and you want to buy a home, then it's the perfect time to buy a house. Don't be concerned about interest rates. Interest rates will fluctuate up and down. You can always refinance them. But again, just being able to know that you're able to buy that house is where you want to strive for, and that's where you want to get to first. Okay.
Okay. Sounds like I should talk to you before I got my home. I need to know that for a fact because I feel like I cut you off. Were you even say anything else?
Nope, you're good. Go right ahead.
Can
Okay,
I
cool.
add a
Gotta
small
make sure.
piece, Benson?
Oh, of course, Kylie. Go right ahead.
So great feedback, Diane. And I would also say, you mentioned don't worry about interest rates. And I did mention the book, Economics 101. But one thing you want to understand too is that there's going to be opportunity that presents itself when when the Fed drops interest rates.
Mhm.
And so one thing that I do want to bring up, and I don't want to get ahead of you, Benson, but when it comes to, I'm going to just call it economic opportunity. And there's a saying, never let a good financial crisis go to waste. And from time to time, you're going to hear about recessions. And oftentimes when it's on Bloomberg or CNBC, it kind of baffles me because they talk about recessions as if they never happen. They're going to happen periodically. But the thing is, wait for the opportunity, because let's just say we hit a recession and let's just say you're fortunate enough, if you're working, that you still have your job. But that's going to present an opportunity because typically the Fed goes to what they call a zero interest rate policy, meaning that they're going to lower short-term rates, but long-term rates typically follow. That's going to give you an opportunity to refinance your long-term debt at a lower cost. So that's why I think reading information, whether it be the 2 books that I just mentioned or just finding things on your own, understanding how rates work, how the economy works, it's going to prove to be beneficial because you're going to be able to learn how to take advantage of various economic circumstances.
Great point.
Very great point there. Very great point because you mentioned interest rates change when the Fed comes in. They make any changes to try to curtail inflation. They want to bring interest rates up or down. They do what they do to try to mitigate any outlying issues out there. But it does bring up the fact that we are in a new year and we are under a new administration. So going into this new year, a lot of anxiety around things, a lot of uncertainty, I would say. So when it comes down to, and it poses a question to everyone, how can an individual stay motivated right? How can they stay motivated to stick to that financial goal? And there's so much on the news, so much going on, and everything's happening throughout the year. How do you stay motivated to keep going, right? How do you keep that energy, especially when things are unexpected and those unexpected expenses arise?
Looking at things, on a short term, having a financial advisor, financial coach, clients, especially like during COVID, checked in a little bit more often. We checked in with them a little bit more often to help them through, tough times. But having a goal tracker that you could look on daily and see your progress, that when things look gloomy, there's somewhere that you're able to visually see, hey, you're not, in that bad a shape. Okay. Having a plan that's diversified, that you have short-term investments, cash reserves, midterm, long-term is important.
And I think somebody early on talked about having, I think it was Greg, talked about having that reserve account, that 3 to 6 months backup in savings, where if something does happen, you do have that financial setback. Because let's be honest, life happens and things happen. And so if you have that backup, you have that savings account to rely on, things don't look as bad, because again, you're not going out and extending credit to fix a car, so you can go to work every day. Those are kind of things. So plan ahead. Make sure you have that available in your account. So important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with
Kylie
that.
mentioned that, and for clients when you're working, that's absolutely, you got a solid job, 3 to 6 months. If you're a business owner, or maybe you're on a non-guarantee compensation, more commission based or incentive, with like stock, if you're more in an executive, role, having a longer cash reserve, especially as clients go into retirement, we'll have 2 years set aside, because you never want to have to sell anything in a down market. Okay, you don't want to sell something that you're going to have to incur a bunch of taxes. Okay, so you want to be in a control, and having cash reserves is important if cash flow is not favorable at a point in time, and it will happen.
Yeah, those are excellent points, Greg. And I would say that the kind of going back to the reserve account, you certainly want to have that set aside for the unexpected, and really try hard to stay disciplined and not tap into other resources such as your long-term retirement plan. And as Greg mentioned, you never want to sell in a down market. I think what people fail to realize is that when it comes to market downturns, it's again presents an opportunity. And what people don't realize is that when you look at the markets in general, just the broader markets, on average, the S&P 500 averages the entry year lows 14.1% on an annual basis, entry year lows. But if you were to spin the markets back the last 45 years, even with that entry year low average negative 14%, the market finishes positive 75% of the time. So that tells you every year, for the most part, we're going to see a pullback in the market, and that presents opportunity. And the 10 best days of the market typically happens within 2 weeks of a market correction, meaning that the market drops 10% or more. So those data points are really important, because again, going back to Greg's point, is that you don't want to sell in a down market. You want to stay invested, keep your core holdings. But if you do have cash available, that presents an opportunity to start buying into the markets when the valuations are low. So I always say, just really be disciplined about your savings, your liquid backstop, be disciplined about your approach. But I think one of the original questions was, how do you keep going? How do you stay motivated? And for me, my thing is, what's really important for me? What's driving me from a legacy perspective? Do I want to provide for my 3 kids? So when I'm gone, what will I leave for them? And that's what drives me. And that's part of the conversation that Greg and I have with clients on a regular basis. Yeah, we can talk about the numbers. We can talk about what you accumulated. We can talk about your retirement age and how much income, but what's really driving you? What's your legacy look like? What do you want that to be? And then when we have those tough times, we circle back and have those conversations. Remember when we had our first conversation, when we were going through the fact-finding process, you mentioned to me that you really wanted to take care of your family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We circle back to those conversations and really push those hot buttons, because eventually you got to figure out something that's going to drive you and continue to push you through those times when everything isn't going well. Something that isn't going well. So either way, I think we all got to find whatever that trigger is.
Very powerful stuff, very powerful stuff. And I feel like I must be transparent here. I've been asking a lot of questions for my own benefit. I'll be real, everyone. So let me go ahead and take the opportunity to open it up to the audience. Do you have any questions that you wanted to ask our esteemed panelists, rather? Hey, okay, I see we have some in the chat. Seems to be using the chat function. Thank you for that. Let's see. I know one good one. I actually want to hear something about myself. Technology. How do we stay abreast on everything that's happening? What's some good apps people could use maybe to their budgeting? What are some apps that you recommend when you want to learn more about the news, financial news, and my financial information? How do people get more knowledge on this information? What do y'all suggest? What kind of apps do you think would be good for people that, number one, start budgeting, number two, to really understand what's going on in the financial space?
I'm going to just quickly, before I let these two get in, because there are lots of apps that they can talk about. But one of them is, we've talked a lot about credit. I am a huge proponent of monitoring your credit and figuring out a way to do that. A lot of credit cards will allow you to do that. They do it automatically for you. Sign up for those free apps. I know a lot about credit, but I still use Credit Karma to monitor my credit. I want to make sure that if something's happening, it'll show up on Credit Karma. And then I can see that something's happening to my credit and I need to jump in and figure out what it is. So again, monitor your credit, figure out an app that do that. So, okay, Greg and Kylie, off my soapbox on credit, take it away.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Diane. You are allowed a free credit report every single year, and is
Correct.
it through myfreecreditreport.com? Is that what it is?
Correct. And if you don't understand how to read it, reach out to somebody like myself who can help you go through it and understand what that credit report says about you. That's very, very important. It's not just to get it and to not only know your score, but remember, scores will fluctuate daily. And so don't be so concerned about your scores. Be concerned more about what your credit report says.
Yeah, regarding the apps, Vincent, I'm not very familiar with them. However, the ones that come up the most in conversation are Acorns, Betterment, and there's a third one I'm just drawing a blank on. But those are two that come up periodically. Now, in terms of information that's just really useful and educational, I like investopedia.com. Investopedia, their dashboard is loaded with great educational content, from just basic finance, education planning, to wealth management. And they even start digging into, say, news and data about the markets and the economy. I think that's a very, very good resource to use. So that's investopedia.com. Now, as you start getting into investing and understanding more about it, Seeking Alpha is another one. And again, that's going to be more data driven, where you can do a little bit more research on particular securities, as well as market data. And there's even a component of the site, if you were to sign up as a member, it will even give you extensive data on particular securities that you may have interest in buying. So it'll go through whether it's a buy recommendation, hold recommendation, or sell recommendation. It gives you the rationale why those recommendations were made. And it gives you a lot of other data as it pertains to those specific securities. So Investopedia is definitely one because again, it's ground level and you can kind of graduate up on that site as it has a load of information, but Seeking Alpha is the other one.
Hey,
Benson, I have a question.
absolutely.
How do you go about selecting a financial advisor? Because all personalities may not work, but what are some of the things you should look for in your professional investment advisor? And then the part B to that question would be, how do you know when the relationship isn't working? Is it when you're not making the money that you thought you were going to make? How would you know when it's time to say this isn't working? Don't all jump at that question at
I
once.
thought you were
I-
asking Benson. I've been doing this. It's coming up on 33 years here in June. That I started my wealth management firm, and we interview clients, coming in and ask them to interview us. We want to make sure that we're in alignment, with values and, understand their goals, and we're able to deliver. And we're not the right firm for everybody, and everybody out there, is not the right fit for us either. So some firms, their box is you have to have a certain net worth or income, or they just work within a certain industry, with, just athletes or just doctors. So I think the key thing is you need to find somebody that listens, that, you could develop, a strong trusting relationship. They educate you. They, challenge you and allow you to also, ask questions. But ultimately, clients hire us and pay us for advice. And as a fiduciary, we're going to be making the best recommendation for them, not for us, for them. And so if clients aren't taking or implementing, our recommendation, and, want to, listen to their neighbor, or, they heard something online, that's fine, but we're probably not the best firm for them then. Okay. So clients we work with, listen to, our advice, and they don't leave. Our retention is extremely high, and, we're proud of that.
Okay.
I'd add one other thing. Morningstar is another great resource that you're able to, get a lot of information about mutual funds and, securities, and it's very well known in the industry, out there, to educate yourself. And we use an app, through Northwestern Mutual. It's free to non-clients and clients, and you can link external accounts. So that has been very, very exciting for clients, because it'll do budgeting for them, and they got one place where they can see all their financial assets and liabilities.
Yeah, and I would echo what Greg said, in terms of the process and the client relationship. And I think I mentioned this earlier, is that usually when we meet with a prospective client, we have what I call a fit meeting. So we just have a conversation about what their goals and expectations are, what their experience has been like with previous financial advisors, if they've had one, what were the good things, what were the shortcomings, and how can we fill the gaps? And we share a little bit more about our comprehensive model and how we service clients. And from there, we decide if it makes sense to have the second meeting, which is going to be more of a fact finding or discovery meeting. But I think it's really important, the client touch points, the reviews, being proactive about what's moving the markets, economic data, legislative changes, and having client appreciation events. We try to have them on a quarterly basis. We rotate the subjects from estate planning to taxes to what's moving the markets in economics. And I think it's really important for us to have that high touch in terms of communication. And of course, everybody expects returns. Returns, they're important, but it's more about the relationship and making sure that we're doing everything that we can for the client to help them achieve their long-term goals. So that's what I would add to that particular question, but I echo everything that Greg said.
Vincent, if I may, one more. Diane, most people know that purchasing a home is the first step to developing financial wealth and
Mhm.
creating generational wealth. And so you're selecting a realtor and a banker to work with you. What should you look for? Because there are a number of realtors, there are a number of bankers. What should you look for?
Again, I always I deal a lot with, how do I test that? By my gut. Okay. Are you getting answers? If you ask a question, is the question being answered? You will know. And you want to always make sure that somebody is available. I'm not going to promise you the moon and that interest rates are going to drop to 3%. I'm going to be very honest with you. And so again, you're going to look for that person that you can talk to, that you can pick up the phone and talk to. I will tell you, the internet has a lot of bad advice on it. So again, don't always go, yes, you can search Google, but again, you'll want to pick up the phone and call somebody and make sure you can talk to them. I recommend a lot of real estate agents kind of based on having that conversation with you about, okay, where are you looking? Find an agent that's it works in a particular area possibly, or maybe you want to work with a male or a female or a young person or an older person. I tend to talk to people a lot like, okay, I'm going to talk to you like your mom and just say, okay, here's what you need to be thinking about. So find somebody go with your gut. I think Kylie and Greg will probably agree with this, is that you will know when you talk to somebody whether you think they have your best interest at heart. And that's who you want to go with, is somebody who's going to be out there looking out for you. And not for me, but for you.
All good
Thank you.
stuff there. Oh man, I'm writing down a bunch of stuff. My hands getting tired. But we're getting close to our closing. Before we get out of here, I do want to pose one more question to the panelists. Let's get some actionable steps here. Let's get some action steps. Can you each person give us one action step that people can take with them today to jumpstart their financial future? And because I see you on my screen first, Diane, what's that one action step?
So that one action step, and I talked about credit so much, but again, it's so, so important in everything we do in life. So again, get your financial house in order. And that means working on your credit. If you have questions, call somebody like me who you can ask questions of, and make sure that you understand your credit, where you're at and where you want to be as far as credit. Never hesitate to ask questions. That's what somebody like me is here for, is to make sure you understand that and make sure you understand your credit. And there are some financial apps out there, and I'll give them to you, tell you how to build credit if that's where you're at. So if you're just starting out and you don't know, if you have no credit at all, I'll help you. Somebody like me will help you build credit. Somebody like me will help you maintain credit. If you've gotten into credit trouble, again, life happens. If you've gotten into some trouble with your credit, don't worry. There are ways, I tell people there's no ways to fix it. There are ways or repair it, but there are ways to maintain it and rebuild it. So never be afraid to ask those questions.
I'll jump in quick and answer somebody's question here about dollar cost averaging, but the one takeaway would be pay yourself first before you pay anybody else. Because long term and obviously short term, but long term, nobody's going to take care of your family, yourself, for retirement. You need to do that. So you need to be planning, have a plan, and pay yourself to start, small and continue to increase, and have a plan. And work with a coach, a financial coach, to hold you accountable and make sure that you're maximizing that. With regard to dollar cost averaging, the example I'll give is if you buy something at $10, a stock, or, let's say a share of Target is $10, this month, the next month you buy it at $5, okay? You've spent $15, you bought 2 shares, the average is $7.50. Okay, so that's what they're gonna do is add, every time you buy, what that price is divided, and that's gonna be your average. Okay? So over the course of time, when you're investing every 2 weeks or weekly or monthly, however you get paid, the stock is going up and down, and you're getting an up and down price and an average over time, and that's better than trying to do a lump sum and time the market 6 times. You're going to be way better doing that than not doing it.
Yeah, I'll add, I would start with really identifying what your goals are, what's really important for you, and get it and put it on paper. And if you need to modify it over time, then there's nothing wrong with that. We all have to pivot every now and then, but I would start with identifying what those goals are. But I would really focus on building a network of resources. Try to identify professionals that work in particular industries that could essentially be part of your board of advisors. And again, somebody like Diane, or somebody like Greg, a private banker, a CPA, an estate planning attorney, and truly vet them out. I would say, typically when I make the recommendation for a client to visit with an estate planning attorney or CPA, I give them 3 names, but I will give them feedback on which one I feel like might be the best fit for them and why. But at the end of the day, I think it's really important for you or the client or prospective client to have those conversations to vet out those particular professionals to figure out and determine which one's going to be best suited for me based upon how they work and my needs. And personality is a really important part of that too. So I would say really get your goals on paper, identify what those are, and create the action steps, but start building out that network of resources that are going to really help you achieve those goals long term.
All right, all right. Thank you all for that wonderful action step. Oh man, I'm mad that we're at time now, but good thing we have a after party, after sale, where people can come ask some more questions from the audience. But before we get into that, I want to thank our esteemed panel once again. Diane, Kylie, Greg, thank you so much for taking your time out your busy day to come help give some great advice, great knowledge on how we can start this new year right.
Hello, my name is Aquila Robinson, and I am ABEP's Financial Empowerment Center's Program and Outreach Manager. I'd like to thank our moderator, panelists, and for all of you for joining in on the conversation today. I hope you took notes so you can share this beyond Table Talk. ABEP would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our sponsors for their generous support in making this event possible. For further resources, please visit our website. While there, you can also register for our next program, which happens monthly. While I still have you here with me, please take this opportunity to connect and network. If you would like to support our efforts, please consider making a donation to help us continue to bring you impactful programs like this one. I hope to see you again.